Chinaza Easy's fingers clenched the edge of the car seat as the black sedan swerved sharply to avoid a delivery truck. She jolted forward, her breath catching in her throat. If the driver noticed her panic, he didn't show it. He simply straightened the steering wheel and continued up the winding road as if nothing had happened. She stared ahead, heart pounding. That single jolt reminded her exactly how fragile her fate was, how easily everything could break. The CO estate appeared at the top of the hill like a silent judge waiting for her arrival. A massive fortress of glass and stone. Cold, empty. It didn't look like a home. It looked like the beginning of something she wasn't ready for. When the car stopped, the driver opened the door without a word. "Miss Isa," he said. "They're expecting you." Her legs trembled as she stepped out. The air smelled like pine and something metallic. She wished she were back in Enugu with her mother cooking yam porridge and her little brother fighting over the remote. She wished she could undo every mistake that had led her here. But the truth was simple. Her family would have been destroyed without this arrangement. And she, 19-year-old, frightened, desperate Chinasa, was the only collateral they had left. Inside, the mansion was colder, too quiet. The echo of her footsteps sounded like warnings. A guard led her to a dim study filled with shelves and a single leather chair. "Wait here," he said, then left her alone with nothing but fear for company. She tugged at the sleeve of her dress, whispering to herself in Igbo, "Chinekebiko, God, please help me." The door opened. 2 men stepped in. Twins. Identical faces but completely different worlds. The first one, Daehyun Seo, smiled softly. "Welcome, Chinaza. I'm glad you arrived safely." His voice was warm, disarming, like he truly saw her. The second man, Min Seo, didn't smile. He didn't even blink. He studied her as though assessing property he'd bought at a high price. His presence filled the room like a shadow. She stood, unsure what to do. Daehyun moved first, offering his hand. "It's nice to meet you." She managed a tight nod. "Nice to meet you too." But when Min Seok stepped forward, she froze. He didn't offer his hand. He spoke instead, voice deep and edged like winter air. "You know why you're here." It wasn't a question. Her throat closed. "Yes." "Good," he said. "Then you also understand the terms. You will be married to both of us. There is no room for hesitation or refusal." Her fingers shook at her sides. She tried to speak, but her voice was a trapped thing. Daehyun shot Min-suk a glance. "You're scaring her." Min-suk didn't look away from Chinaza. Fear makes the truth clearer. Something in her stomach churned. She whispered, "I'm not trying to refuse. I'm overwhelmed." "For now," Min-suk said simply. "It won't matter soon." Daehyun stepped closer to her, gentler. "Ignore him. We aren't monsters. We just handle things differently." Before she could respond, Min-suk turned and walked toward the door. "Prepare her. Tonight is not optional." Daehyun exhaled sharply. He has a terrible way of phrasing things. Please don't let him scare you too much. But Chinaza had already understood something important. Daehyun was sunlight. Min-suk was nightfall, and she was being pulled between the two. Daehyun led her down a hallway to a spacious bedroom. A fire crackled in the corner, warm and inviting, but it did nothing to calm the storm in her chest. "You don't have to be afraid," Daehyun murmured. "We'll go slowly." Before she could reply, the door opened again. Min-suk entered. He didn't speak. He simply stood there, arms crossed, eyes fixed on her with a quiet, claiming intensity. Daehyun touched her hand gently. Let me help you breathe, okay? She nodded, barely. Look at me, he murmured. She looked. Good, he whispered. Just breathe with me. But she could feel Min-seok's gaze burning through her. The night unfolded in a blur of contradiction. Softness from Daehyun, harsh presence from Min-seok. Daehyun's touch was careful, guiding, gentle. Min-seok watched from the shadows, silent but dominant, his eyes never leaving her. By the time she lay between the twins, exhaustion pressed on her like a weight. Daehyun's fingers brushed her cheek. Sleep? Min-seok's voice followed softly, surprisingly gentle. You're ours now. You'll understand in time. Her last thought before sleep found her was simple. She didn't know which man she feared more, or which one she was already drawn to. When morning came, she woke to silence. Daehyun was gone. Min-seok sat near the window, arms folded, watching her. Her heart jumped. You're still here? He didn't move. You talk in your sleep. Her face heated. What did I say? Nothing useful, he said, standing. Get up. You'll start learning the house today. As she stood, the room seemed to tilt. His gaze pinned her. She knew nothing about him except that he frightened her more than he should. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. And Chinaza, last night changed things. Don't pretend it didn't. Her breath hitched. He left. Alone in the massive room, she pressed her hand to her chest. Something was happening inside her. Something she didn't have the strength to name yet. But she knew one thing with painful clarity. This household, this life, would break her, or rebuild her, or both. Either way. There was no turning back now. Chinaza forced herself to take steady breaths as she stepped out of the bedroom. The hallway stretched long and quiet, decorated with art she didn't have the mind to admire. She felt watched. Even when she couldn't see anyone, the house itself felt like it monitored her every move. She wandered until she reached a glass corridor overlooking a private garden. That was where Daehyun found her. There you are, he said warmly. I thought Min-seok's morning lecture might have scared you into a corner. She turned toward him, relief softening her shoulders. He didn't lecture me. He just stared. Daehyun burst into laughter. That sounds like him. He said I talked in my sleep. Daehyun smiled and stepped closer. Did he also mention he barely slept? He sat in that chair for hours, watching you breathe. Her eyes widened. Why? Because he cares, Daehyun said simply. His ways are just sharp, edges everywhere. Chinaza swallowed hard. He's intimidating. I know. Daehyun leaned against the glass. But don't mistake his silence for cruelty. He loves in ways people don't expect. She blinked. Loves? Already? Daehyun sighed. Min-seok and I don't love like normal people, Chinaza. If we choose someone, we choose all the way. She didn't know how to respond. He didn't give her long to think. Come on. You need food. He took her to the breakfast room. Bright sunlight, soft colors, warmth that felt entirely his. He talked while they ate, distracting her with jokes and stories about growing up as twins. By the time breakfast ended, she found herself laughing lightly, forgetting for a moment where she was. But the moment she stepped into the hallway again, Min-seok emerged from the corner like a shadow. His gaze flicked from her to Daehyun, then back. You took her out without telling me, he said. Daehyun sighed. She's not a prisoner, Min. Min-seok ignored him, taking slow steps toward Chinaza, until she felt her heartbeat in her throat. Did you eat? He asked. Yes. Did you like it? She nodded quickly. Yes. Good. His eyes softened by a degree. You look less frightened. Daehyun grinned. See, I'm useful. Min-suk gave him an unimpressed look before focusing on Chinaza again. I want to show you something. He started walking away without waiting for her answer. Daehyun whispered dramatically, "The king summons his queen," making her bite back a smile, despite her nerves. She followed Min-suk down a staircase into the lower part of the mansion, where the air changed, heavier, quieter, more private. He opened a door to reveal a small space filled with food ingredients, herbs, African spices. Her breath stopped. I researched what you like, Min-suk said, or rather what your mother cooks. I don't know if it tastes the same. I tried. She stared at him. You cooked, she repeated. Yes. For me. Yes. There was no softness in his voice, no smile. Yet the simple admission hit her harder than Daehyun's sunshine warmth ever could. He gestured to a steaming bowl of offensala, arranged neatly on a table. Taste it. She sat and lifted a spoon. The first sip was familiar, a memory of home. Different, but close enough to make her eyes sting. It's good, she whispered. Min-suk's eyelids lowered. Satisfaction? Relief? She couldn't tell. Eat all of it? She almost laughed. I will. He sat opposite her, watching every mouthful like each bite mattered. Min-suk, she said softly. Why did you go through all this trouble? He didn't blink. Because you're mine. Her breath caught. And Daehyun's, he added reluctantly, as if the words tasted bitter. Both, equally. That bitterness, just a flicker, sparked something inside her, a dangerous something. Do you hate that? She asked before she could stop herself. His jaw tightened. I don't hate sharing. I hate the idea of losing. Losing. Me? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. When she finished eating, he stood close enough that she felt the heat of him. Come, he said. There's more to see. The next hours became a strange dance between two worlds. Daehyun whisked her away in the afternoon for a spontaneous outing into the city. He bought her a warm drink, took pictures with her, pulled her into laughter until her stomach ached. At one point, he wrapped her scarf around her neck when the wind grew cold. You should smile more, he teased. You look like someone who hides joy like it's a secret. She shoved him lightly. You talk too much. That's what Min-suk says, Daehyun joked, usually right before threatening to throw me out a window. She burst into laughter. When they returned, Min-suk was waiting in the foyer, arms crossed, his eyes zeroed in on the cup in her hand. You bought her coffee? Daehyun blinked. Yes. Min-suk stepped forward, took the cup from Chinaza's fingers, and said in a flat voice, Too much sugar. He handed it back. Daehyun snorted. This man is impossible. Chinaza didn't know why she found Min-suk's possessiveness compelling, but she did, and that terrified her. That night, she lay in bed between them again. The air was thick with tension, but not the uncomfortable kind. Daehyun brushed her arm lightly. Are you okay? He murmured. Yes. Min-suk shifted closer behind her, his breath warm against her ear. You're overthinking. Her breath hitched. You do that a lot, he continued. I'm trying to understand everything, she whispered. You don't need to, Min-suk said. You just need to feel. Daehyun chuckled. Don't listen to him. He thinks feeling solves everything. It does, Min-suk countered quietly. Chinaza's heart pounded as their voices surrounded her, one soft, one deep, both pulling her in different directions. She should have felt trapped. Instead, she felt something else, something dangerous. She closed her eyes, trying to silence her thoughts, but she kept hearing one truth echoing in her mind. She was falling for both brothers, differently, impossible to compare. And it was only the beginning. The tension in the house thickened over the next days. Not because of anger, no. It was something heavier. Something unspoken. Something that wrapped itself around Chinaza's chest every time she walked past either brother. Daehyun remained warm sunlight, always smiling, always talking to her as if her presence lit up the room, always finding ways to make her laugh. Min-suk remained moonlight, quiet, watching, waiting, his touches rare but startling in their intensity. And Chinaza. She was losing her grip on the neat lines that used to separate her emotions. She couldn't categorize what was happening inside her. One evening, Daehyun dragged her outside into the cold air, claiming she needed fresh oxygen for proper thinking. As they walked toward the garden, he nudged her with his shoulder. "You've been quiet today." "I'm just tired." He tilted his head. "That's not it." She forced a smile. "You read too much into things." He sighed dramatically. "I do, unfortunately." They walked in silence until they reached a stone bench under a small lantern. Daehyun sat first, patting the space beside him. "Sit." She obeyed. A moment passed. Then he looked at her with eyes softer than she expected. "Min-suk and I grew up together, but we don't love the same way. You know that, right?" "Yes." "Good." His voice lowered. "Because you're trying to force yourself to choose. And that's hurting you." Her chest tightened. "I can't love you both the same way." "I don't want you to," he said immediately. "He doesn't either." She stared at him, surprised. Daehyun smiled faintly. "Your heart has room, Chinaza. Stop trying to shrink it." She didn't know what to say. He held her gaze gently. "Tell me honestly. Do you feel something for him?" Her heart lurched. "Daehyun, I'm not asking to hurt you," he said quietly. "Just trust me." She swallowed. "Yes, I feel something for him." Daehyun exhaled, almost in relief. "Good. I was worried you didn't." She blinked, confused. "Why?" "Because he loves you too," Daehyun murmured. "Even if he'd rather swallow knives than admit it." Before she could respond, a presence approached. Min-suk stepped out of the shadows, his posture rigid, eyes dark. "How long have you been standing there?" Daehyun asked. "Long enough," Min-suk said. Daehyun rolled his eyes. "Fantastic." Chinaza stood, flustered. "Min-suk, He didn't let her finish. "Come inside. It's cold." Daehyun snorted. "How romantic!" Min-suk's jaw tightened. "I wasn't asking you." "Clearly." Chinaza looked between them, feeling the familiar tension coil in the air. But there was something different this time. Something charged. She walked past Min-suk. "I'll come with you." He followed close behind, his presence overwhelming. As soon as they stepped inside the hallway, he caught her wrist. Not harshly, but firmly enough to steal her breath. "Did he make you say that?" Min-suk asked. "No," she whispered. "Did you mean it?" She hesitated. "Yes." His shoulders lowered a fraction, relief hidden beneath his stern expression. "Good," he murmured, "because lying to me would have been worse." She opened her mouth to speak, but he stepped closer suddenly, so close she could feel the warmth of his breath. "Don't run from your feelings," he whispered. Her pulse raced. "I'm trying to figure them out." "You don't need to figure them out. Just feel them." "You sound like Daehyun," she breathed. He scoffed lightly. "I sound nothing like him." "Slightly," she whispered, surprising herself. His eyes darkened. Careful. She shivered. He didn't touch her again, but she felt touched everywhere. That night, the house was quiet, the air heavier than usual. Chinaza sat in the library, the only place that felt like hers. The warm light, the soft shadows, the silence she could breathe in. She tried reading, but the words blurred. Her mind kept replaying Daehyun's softness and Min-suk's intensity. She whispered to the empty room, "What is happening to me?" A voice answered from the doorway. "You're overwhelmed." She gasped and turned. Min-suk stood there, leaning against the frame. "Why are you always so silent?" she asked. "You move like a ghost." He walked toward her slowly. "You're distracted. That's why you don't hear me." She hugged her arms around herself. "Min-suk, this is confusing. I know. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel." "I do." She stared at him. "Tell me." He stopped in front of her, lowering his voice. "You love him." Her chest tightened painfully. "And you love me," he added softly. "Differently, but equally true." Her breath trembled. "I don't want to hurt either of you." "You won't." "How can you be so sure?" He gently touched her chin, lifting her face. "Because we won't let you." Before she could process his words, Daehyun entered the room. "Oh, good," he said lightly. "You found her." Min-suk didn't move. She wasn't lost. Daehyun's eyes softened when he looked at Chinaza. "You've been crying." She wiped her eyes quickly. "I'm fine." "You're not," Daehyun whispered. Min-suk stepped back, giving her space. It broke something inside her. The breath she'd been holding escaped in a tremble. Her voice cracked. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to love two people. I don't know how to be enough for both of you." Daehyun walked to her slowly, carefully. "You already are," Min-suk added quietly. "You never had to choose." "But I feel torn," she cried, "like my heart is pulling in two directions and I'm breaking." Daehyun wrapped his arms around her gently. Min-suk placed a hand on her back, warm and grounding. "You're not breaking," Min-suk murmured. "You're expanding." "You belong to both of us," Daehyun whispered. "Not half. Whole." She clung to them, overwhelmed by the weight of their words. Her breath shook, her heart pounded. She whispered, "I don't want to lose either of you." "You won't," Min-suk said. "Never," Daehyun added. She closed her eyes as the truth settled heavy and warm inside her. She loved them, both of them, in completely different ways. And this love, this impossible, unconventional love, was starting to feel like home. Days passed, and something in the Seo estate softened. It wasn't the walls, or the cold glass corridors, or even the piercing silence that used to swallow Chinaza whole. It was the atmosphere. The tension that once pressed against her lungs began to lift. Instead of walking on shards of uncertainty, she felt the ground beneath her steady, because the brothers no longer worked around each other. They moved with each other, and with her. One morning she woke between them, just like always. But something was different this time. Daehyun's hand rested warmly on hers, and Min-suk's arm was around her waist. Not tight, not possessive, just there, solid, present, protective. She opened her eyes slowly. Daehyun's voice was soft. "Good morning." Min-suk's was lower. "Sleep well?" She blinked at both of them. "Yes, I think I did." Daehyun smiled. "That means you're finally relaxing?" Min-suk brushed a single strand of hair from her cheek. The gesture was shockingly gentle. "You're safe," he said. For the first time since arriving, she believed him. As they got out of bed, Daehyun wrapped an arm around her shoulders. We're going on a little adventure today." "What kind?" she asked. "The kind that makes you forget all your worries," he grinned. Minsuk shot him a flat look. "Don't exaggerate." Daehyun rolled his eyes. "Let me be dramatic." Chinaza shook her head, laughing. They drove to a quiet, lakeside area Daehyun loved. Cool air, gentle waves, soft sunlight reflecting on the water. Daehyun showed her how to skip stones, celebrating every time she managed even one bounce. Minsuk watched from a distance at first, hands in his pockets, trying to pretend he wasn't paying attention. But the moment the stone slipped from her hand and she nearly leaned too far towards the water, Minsuk was suddenly at her side. "Be careful," he said sharply. Daehyun snorted. She tripped on air, Min, not a cliff. She could have slipped. Into shallow water. Minsuk ignored him and checked her hands. "Did you hurt yourself?" She shook her head. "I'm fine." He nodded once, but didn't step away. Not until Daehyun bumped him lightly with his shoulder. "Relax. She's not made of glass." Minsuk's eyes flicked to Chinaza. "She's important." Her breath caught. Daehyun's smile softened. "She is." They spent hours together, something that once would have been impossible. Chinaza felt the shift inside them. No rivalry, no silent competition, no hidden resentment. They were becoming a unit. Later that evening, back at the estate, Chinaza walked into the kitchen to find Minsuk preparing something. He looked up when she entered. "It's not offensala this time," he said, "but something similar. You looked tired. I thought a warm meal would help." She stared at him. "You've been paying attention. I always pay attention to you." His voice didn't waver. Her chest tightened. "Minsuk, when did you start caring this much?" His jaw flexed slightly. "The day you stepped into that study. Maybe before that." She moved closer, hesitantly. "You don't show it the way Daehyun does." "I'm not Daehyun." "I know." A pause. Then she whispered, "But I feel you just as clearly." Minsuk's eyes softened. Barely, but clearly. He set the spoon down and stepped toward her. "You are the first person," he said quietly, "who ever made me want something I can't control." Her breath trembled. "And what's that?" "You." The word hit her like a warm wave. Just then, Daehyun burst into the kitchen cheerfully. "Did someone say her name? Oh." He froze, smirked, and folded his arms. "Am I interrupting a moment?" "No," Chinaza said quickly. "Yes," Minsuk said at the same time. Daehyun laughed. "I'll give you 2 minutes before I come back and steal her." Minsuk glared. Daehyun winked at Chinaza and left. When he was gone, Minsuk exhaled with irritation. "He's impossible." "You love him," she teased. He blinked slowly. "He's my brother." "That's not what I asked." He didn't answer. She touched his arm lightly. "Thank you for caring." His breath hitched almost imperceptibly. Then he stepped, back before he lost himself too deeply. "Go before he returns and makes a joke about it," he murmured. She smiled. "Okay." That night, all three of them ended up in the library. Daehyun sprawled on the couch, talking animatedly about the ridiculous things he and Minsuk did as kids. Minsuk sat in the corner chair, arms crossed, pretending not to listen, but correcting every detail Daehyun got wrong. Chinaza sat between them, feeling lighter than she had in years. At one point, Daehyun leaned his head on her shoulder. "You look peaceful?" "I feel peaceful," she said softly. Minsuk's voice came from the shadows. "Good." She looked at him. "Thank you." He held her gaze for a long moment before looking away, a faint warmth in his eyes. He didn't bother hiding this time. But everything changed in the following weeks. The mansion once cold and intimidating turned into something warm and alive. Music played. Laughter filled the halls. The kitchen smelled like spices and soups from both Korean and Nigerian cuisines. Even the guards softened around her. Chinaza was no longer a frightened girl. She had become the center of a home. Years passed, and one afternoon, Chinaza stood in the courtyard, watching two little boys chase each other, one with Daehyun's playful grin, the other with Min-suk's sharp, observant gaze. Daehyun hugged her from behind. "They're going to break something." "They're fine," she laughed. Min-suk stood beside them, hands behind his back. "The smaller one is too reckless." "He's just excited," Daehyun teased. "He's unstable," Min-suk corrected. Chinaza laughed softly. "You both worry too much?" Daehyun kissed her cheek. "We worry because we love." Min-suk didn't say anything. He simply reached out and took her hand. She threaded her fingers through both of theirs. And in that moment, she understood. She didn't love two men. She loved one family, one bond, one life, unconventional, untamed, unbreakable, a life she never expected, but a love she would never trade. She whispered, "Thank you for choosing me." Daehyun smiled. "We didn't choose you." Min-suk finished softly. "We recognized you." The three stood together as their sons played. One family, not divided, but whole. Unusual, unwritten, unquestionably theirs. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any more unforgettable love stories. Your support helps us bring more emotional, heart-gripping tales to life. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story.